What would you do if the person you hated most was also the only one who kept saving your life? Telia had one rule: never trust anyone, never get attached, never end up like her mother, who believed in love and had her entire life destroyed because of it. She followed that rule for 4 years, watching this boy take everything she worked for without even trying, sitting comfortably at the top while she clawed for every single point. So when she looked at him on that bench and asked if he wanted to sleep with her, it wasn't desire, it wasn't love, it was desperation. The worst possible person, at the worst possible moment, and he was the only option she had, and somehow, that was the moment everything changed. Because after that night, he started showing up everywhere, sending flowers he never signed, catching her every time she fell, standing between her and every danger she hadn't seen coming yet, never once asking for anything in return. She already knew his type. She'd spent 4 years despising it. She just couldn't figure out why he felt different. This is the story of a girl who swore she would never fall, and the boy who had been building a cage she couldn't see, one small, careful act of devotion at a time. Arkansas Royal Academy has produced some of the most brilliant minds on the continent, and honestly, with tuition prices like that, it had better. The entrance exam alone is enough to break most people, and the final graduation exam makes that look like a warm-up. This is supposedly the greatest center of learning in the known world, which makes it a little funny that the most interesting thing happening right now is a girl confessing her feelings in the garden. She stands with her head lowered, voice steady, despite her trembling hands, telling a boy she likes him. She's not asking for an answer right away. No pressure at all, she says. She hands him a letter and mentions almost casually that her dorm room key is inside. He should keep it either way. Nearby, another girl lowers her book. She'd been trying to study, but this is considerably more entertaining. She watches, curious, until it clicks. The boy receiving that letter, the one standing there with the easy posture of someone who has done this before, is Ilex Davenport, second son of the Davenport ducal house, the Academy's top student, 4 years running, and its most dedicated playboy, which somehow makes those two facts even more irritating. She'd seen his name at the top of the notice board earlier that morning. A group of girls had gathered around it like he'd personally hung the stars. One red-haired girl sighed that being perfect must be exhausting, though she couldn't be too hard on him. They weren't engaged yet. Her friends assured her he'd settle down after graduation. Men always return to their families in the end, apparently. Our girl walked away from that conversation feeling vaguely nauseous, because she knows exactly what Ilex Davenport is. Not just a playboy, practically a high-end escort with better grades. She leans against the wall and watches him accept the letter from the girl's trembling hand. The girl flees immediately, cheeks burning. And before the moment even settles, a crowd of boys materializes around him like he's a magnet for mediocrity, laughing loudly, asking how many confessions that makes this week, joking that he'll run out of girls for the rest of them. Then one of them notices her. Suddenly, they're wondering aloud whether she sent a letter too. Jealousy dressed up as a compliment. She slides her book into her bag and reminds herself that these same boys failed their entrance exams not once but multiple times, and the only reason she shares any classes with them is a clerical tragedy she has yet to forgive the Academy for. She has absolutely no interest in flattering them, or Ilex. One boy drops onto a bench beside Ilex and sighs like a man carrying the weight of the world, which is rich, coming from someone whose only burden is his own mediocrity. He laments how effortless it must be for Ilex, girls just appearing, while he has to throw money around or actually work up the courage to speak. Then he mentions who he has in mind, Telia Ambrose. Poor family, no real connections. His words carry that particular brand of confidence that belongs to men who mistake a title for a personality. The kind who believe that someone's circumstances make them an easy target with no consequences. Ilex quietly tells him to lower his voice. He doesn't. He's still boasting about guaranteed results within a week when Ilex's expression shifts. His eyes land on something just ahead, and they go wide with the specific look of a man who has made a significant miscalculation. Everyone else catches up a second later. The girl walking toward them is Telia. The boastful boy scrambles to his feet, opens his mouth, says, with the energy of someone desperately reaching for anything, that the weather is very nice today. Telia stops in front of him, tilts her head slightly. Are you talking about the weather? He confirms that yes, he is absolutely talking about the weather. She smiles, small, patient, the kind of smile that should have been a warning sign. Perfect timing, she says, because I have something to tell you. She'd rather die, she says, than ever sleep with him. He sputters. She repeats herself, clearer this time, and adds that she's been with plenty of men before. She glances briefly toward Ilex, who is watching all of this unfold with an expression that gives nothing away, then turns back. She doesn't mind digging through a trash can sometimes, she tells him pleasantly, but she would never lower herself to sleeping with a toilet. The silver-haired boy shoots to his feet, shouting. He wants to know what she just called him. Did she really just say that to his face? Telia is already walking away. She doesn't look back. He's still shouting when she rounds the corner. And honestly, the fact that she can't hear him anymore is the most peaceful thing that's happened to her all day. As she moves through the academy grounds, her mind drifts somewhere quieter and considerably more frustrating. She doesn't believe she's unworthy of first place. She never has. But for 4 years, someone like him has been sitting comfortably at the top while she claws for every point, every ranking, every inch of ground that should have been hers. She looks at the girls scattered across the courtyard and thinks about every hour she's poured into this place. Then Judy appears out of nowhere, slightly breathless, asking where she disappeared to. She checked the library and everything. Telia explains that the library got too noisy. What she doesn't say, what she keeps tucked quietly behind her eyes, is that if she had never come to this academy at all, her life would probably be an even bigger disaster than it already is. So she's staying. She's focusing on the graduation exam. It's the only thing she can actually control right now, and she's holding on to it with both hands. The following day, she's walking through the grounds with Judy when her friend spots Ilex sparring in the garden and stops short. Sparring isn't even required for the exams, and yet there he is, completely absorbed in it, moving like someone who genuinely enjoys making everything look effortless. Judy watches with visible surprise and wonders aloud why someone with that kind of skill chose the Royal Academy over a night order. Telia considers this for half a second. A night order would mean giving up casual dating? That explains it entirely. Judy, however, keeps watching. She's the youngest daughter of a prestigious knight family, and she notices things others miss. The way even the rougher movements carry solid fundamentals underneath, the way nothing is wasted when he swings, her surprise only deepens. Across the garden, a small cluster of girls has reached similar conclusions about his technique, though their interest is less academic. The brown-haired one is already debating whether to approach him once the match ends. Her friends warn her immediately, "Do not do that," and the tension shifts slightly when someone notices the red-haired Cecilia nearby. The blonde beside her points out that they're not even engaged yet, and besides, she's heard Davenport has become more selective lately. So why would Cecilia bother saying anything here? On the other side of the garden, Judy is working herself into a quiet frustration. She asks Telia if the world is really this unfair, the way some people float through life carelessly and still end up on top when it matters, the way professors make exceptions for Ilex without a second thought, the way he takes things he doesn't even seem to want. She looks back at the sparring match. She really hopes he loses this one. It's not much to ask. In something this simple, someone else should finally win. Ilex glances toward Telia. His opponent seizes the opening immediately. The girls watching from above shout a warning. He snaps back into focus, deflects the strike in a single motion, and puts the boy flat on the ground. Judy stares, then she spins toward Telia with barely contained energy and demands to know if she saw that. Telia gives her a look, asks if she was just cheering for Davenport. Judy flashes a very enthusiastic thumbs up and insists that absolutely did not happen. She always wants Telia to surpass him. Always. Top position. All the way. Telia smiles and thanks her for the support. The match ends. Ilex sits alone on a bench, and the red-haired girl appears beside him almost immediately, offering her handkerchief and telling him he looked impressive out there. He asks, with the energy of someone who would genuinely rather be anywhere else, why she came all the way here. He's already standing up to leave when she says she just wanted a change of mood, the same as he always does. He doesn't respond. His gaze drifts across the courtyard and lands, almost involuntarily, on Telia. The red-haired girl follows his eyes, finds nothing there that explains anything, looks thoroughly confused. Inside the corridor, the silver-haired boy steps into Telia's path. He wants a moment to talk. Judy immediately moves in front of her like a very small, very determined wall. Telia tells her it's fine and asks her to head to the lecture room ahead. Judy holds her ground for exactly 1 beat longer than necessary before relenting. The boy stumbles through his opening, something about a misunderstanding. Near the lecture building, he's not sure how much she heard. Telia thinks about it. She heard everything, she tells him, up to the part where he called her an easy girl. She also heard the part about facing no consequences for assaulting her. She's curious, does that fall under misunderstanding too? He looks like someone who stepped on a trap he set himself. He asks if that was truly everything she heard. She adds, almost as an afterthought, that she also happened to notice him eagerly trailing after Ilex. The students passing through the corridor catch that last part. Laughter ripples down the hallway. His face goes red. He tells her to remember her place. Poor Baron family, no real standing. She should be focused on earning a few coins rather than running her mouth. He's the formal heir to an earldom. School rules won't protect her forever. Telia listens to all of this without changing her expression once. Then she leans in close and whispers directly into his ear. "Go ahead and hit her," she says. It would get him expelled considerably faster than he'll ever manage to graduate. He stands there, teeth grinding, completely frozen. She pulls back and tells him calmly, apologize, or simply admit that he's nothing more than a dog who rummages through trash cans. He can't move. He can't speak. The rage is there, but it has nowhere to go. And then Cecilia appears. She grabs Telia's arm and demands to know why he feels so desperate to tear a girl down like this. Before Cecilia steps in, two girls nearby have been watching the whole thing unfold with very different reactions. One hopes Gregory gets properly scolded, the other isn't so sure. She sighs and points out that good grades don't erase a bad reputation, and drawing this much attention never ends well for anyone. High society remembers everything. There's nothing to gain from making scenes like this. Cecilia overhears them and privately agrees. She's watched Telia long enough to recognize the pattern. If she just went along with things occasionally, just once, her time at the academy would be so much smoother. Instead, she makes everything harder for herself. Every single time. A flicker of something almost like sympathy moves through Cecilia. She decides to help. She steps forward and demands to know why Gregory feels so desperate to tear Telia down like this. As she draws closer, she notices just how close Telia is standing and pauses for a private, slightly bewildered moment, wondering if Telia's tastes run in a direction she hadn't previously considered. Gregory, meanwhile, has gone very still. He recognizes Cecilia immediately, eldest daughter of the Clayton family, future fiancée of Ilex Davenport. And more pressingly, the Clayton household has long-standing ties with the Myers family, which is his family. The math here is not complicated. Cecilia tells him to disappear, reminds him he should be ashamed of himself. He retreats, but not without throwing a parting warning at Telia over his shoulder. Just wait. Cecilia turns to Telia and asks if she's all right. That must have been unsettling. She adds, with the practiced warmth of someone who has navigated noble circles her entire life, that boys simply can't help being stupid about these things. Telia tells her she's fine, no concern necessary. Cecilia studies her for a moment, admits with what sounds like genuine envy that she wishes she could stay that calm. She can't. Then, smoothly, almost too smoothly, she shifts the conversation entirely. Has Telia thought about what comes after graduation? Telia looks at her, asks why she's asking. Cecilia explains that a secretary position recently opened within the Marquis family estate office. A woman there just got married, leaving the spot vacant. Given Telia's personality and capabilities, she'd be a natural fit. Cecilia even offers to write the recommendation letter herself. Secretarial work, she notes, would suit Telia far better than tutoring. Telia receives this with a smile that reveals absolutely nothing. She thanks her sincerely, she says. She'll certainly consider it if her academic standing ever happens to decline. She wishes Cecilia a pleasant day and walks away. Inside the lecture hall, Judy slams her book against the table hard enough to make the entire room flinch. She wants to know if Gregory has a single shred of human decency anywhere in his body. She's furious that she didn't know sooner, because she would have skipped entering the lecture hall entirely and gone straight to giving him what he deserved. Telia tells her gently to settle down. Everything's fine now. Judy insists that next time, Telia tells her immediately so they can confront him together. Telia smiles and tells her she certainly has a way with words. Judy grins and fully agrees, then opens her mouth to demonstrate again, at which point Telia places her hand directly over it and quietly asks her to stop. She also asks, with genuine curiosity, where exactly Judy learned to talk like that. Her brother, apparently, taught her everything. Judy waves off the rest of her concern and reaches into her bag, pulling out a small bottle. Her father brought it home recently. Everyone's been drinking it. Holy water, infused with divine power. Her brother swears it refreshes the body, sharpens focus, improves memory. Telia points out that holy water was originally made for knight orders fighting demons. Judy points out that money runs everything now, including the temple, which has basically become a merchant operation at this point. She's tried it herself and knows all the precautions. Does Telia want some? Telia declines, tells her to enjoy it herself. Then she asks, almost carefully, whether Judy's parents ever mind, her always looking after Telia like this. Judy looks genuinely baffled by the question. Her father doesn't mind. Her father asks if Telia needs anything. He openly admits that without Telia's help, Judy would have failed out long ago. This isn't a burden, it's just what they do. She notices the book in Telia's hand mid-sentence and immediately snatches it to check if it's on the exam list. Telia admits she forgot she was even holding it. She was only going to skim it before returning it to the library. She tells Judy to head back and sleep. She'll study for a bit more first. Judy watches her go, visibly impressed, and calls after her that she'll wait up anyway. She should come back soon. Stepping out of the room, Telia apologizes to Judy in the quiet of her own thoughts. Her mother's voice surfaces, the reminder that she needs to find something that belongs only to her, something no one can take away. This is her last year, her last real chance. If she performs well enough on the graduation exam, well enough that everyone has to acknowledge it, then maybe she finally gets a taste of what freedom actually feels like. She holds on to that thought all the way to the library and straight through the next several hours, until she glances at the clock and realizes it's much later than she intended. Judy is definitely still waiting. She's still deep in her own head when she nearly walks directly into a door. Ilex steps through it at exactly the right moment, stopping her before she can collide with the frame. She turns toward him, confused. He tells her quietly to watch where she's going. She freezes, just for a second. One very short, very telling second, before Ilex quietly tells her to go ahead. She takes the cue, turns, starts walking. The thought drifts through her mind that he might simply pretend their previous encounter never happened, which would actually be ideal, extremely convenient for everyone involved. She shakes her head slightly and reminds herself this is not the time for that particular train of thought. She needs to get back to her room, review her notes, and get at least 4 hours of sleep. That's the plan. That's all that matters. She exits the building. And then, gradually, the way you notice something you were already sensing without admitting it, comes the distinct impression that she has not been walking alone this entire time. She doesn't look back. She tells herself she's imagining it, keeps walking, sneaks the smallest possible glance over her shoulder. She was not imagining it. Irritation flickers through her chest and she quickens her pace, genuinely unsure what goes through that man's head and equally unsure why it bothers her as much as it does. Then she hears it, a quiet laugh, just barely audible behind her. She spins around. She's already opening her mouth to demand what exactly he finds so amusing when Cecilia steps out of the building behind them. Cecilia stops, takes in the scene with visible surprise, asks Ilex if he came all this way just to pick her up, and what's gotten into him lately, showing up personally like this? She glances at the night sky and remarks that at this rate, the sun might start rising in the west. She notices Telia standing there and asks if she's heading back to the dorms. Telia confirms this, asks politely about Cecilia's plans, gesturing toward the other building. Student council room, Cecilia says. She was studying there. Telia begins to excuse herself. Cecilia asks, light and curious, what exactly she was doing out here with Ilex at this hour. Telia wishes them both a productive evening and walks away without answering. Cecilia turns to Ilex immediately, takes his arm, suggests that if even the Academy's second-ranked student takes studying this seriously, perhaps they should review some materials together. The student council room is empty. She has holy water if he gets tired. She cups his face in her hands. He looks at her for a moment, says her name, then removes her hands, gently but without hesitation. If she's going to try luring someone, he tells her, she should put more effort into it, and cheap holy water won't work on him. She stares at him, not quite following. He asks if she genuinely thought he wouldn't know about the side effects of misusing holy water. She carries the Marquis family name. She should have more dignity than this. Then he makes things very clear. He was never waiting for her. He didn't come here for her, and he never will. He walks away without looking back. She watches him go. Their engagement is set to proceed after graduation. That hasn't changed. Does he really think he can just ignore her until then? Her teeth press together as she considers exactly how much longer his family intends to let him behave however he pleases. Back in the dorm room, Telia finds Judy exactly where she expected. Asleep on the bed, face slack, completely unaware of anything. She moves to wipe her face clean. Judy startles awake with a shout, demanding to know who dared enter her room. Telia tells her it's her, asks if she's been waiting long. She suggests they sleep for tonight and study together in the morning. Judy yawns enormously and asks, already halfway back under, whether the studying went well, if anything happened. Telia starts to answer honestly, catches herself, tells her nothing happened and she should rest. Exams are coming. Judy accepts this with the deep satisfaction of someone who is already 90% asleep anyway, murmurs a soft goodnight and is gone. Across the academy grounds, Ilex walks alone through the quiet night. Something Telia said turns over in his memory, though he couldn't explain why. He glances up at the moon, thinks that once the exams are finally over, vacation begins. In her room, Telia has already fallen asleep. Her textbook sits open beside her on the bed, right where she left it, waiting for a morning that will come far too soon. The next morning, Judy walks into the classroom and immediately thumps her forehead against the desk. She announces, completely doomed. Telia doesn't look up from what she's writing. She tells her to settle down. One subject is done, the rest still have time. Judy sighs deeply and admits that Telia probably did fine while she herself is simply hoping not to have failed outright. Telia mentions she's also uncertain about her score. Judy lifts her head and gives her a look. She always says that, every single time, and then she performs perfectly and everyone acts surprised, which at this point, no one actually is. She reminds Telia that she said the exact same thing last time, right before claiming first place in their general education classes. She catches herself, goes quiet, starts to apologize, calling the comment unnecessary. Telia waves it off, tells her it was a long time ago. It doesn't matter, but it does, a little. It always has. 3 years ago, her name appeared at the top of the rankings for the first and only time because Ilex hadn't shown up to the exam at all. Not due to illness, not an emergency. He'd simply felt tired and decided to sleep in. When she found out the real reason behind her only first-place finish, something in her chest stuttered with shame. The victory hadn't been won. It had been handed to her on a whim by someone who didn't even care enough to show up. That hollow feeling never fully went away. She watches him now, across the room, and feels the familiar frustration settle in. Her struggles, her hours, every point she's scraped for. And he floats above all of it without seeming to want any of it. She wonders, not for the first time, if he has ever genuinely wanted something badly enough to feel desperate. That's exactly why she can't stand him. Later, in the library, Judy notices Telia drifting somewhere far away in her own thoughts. She asks if she's upset. Telia surfaces, asks why she would be. A heavy silence settles between them. Judy admits quietly that she knows Telia doesn't like talking about that exam. She also admits she's clueless about a lot of things, and that despite everything Telia has done for her, her grades are still a disaster. She promises to work harder. Then she grabs Telia's hand and asks her, with the energy of someone making a very serious request, to promise she won't abandon her. Telia pats her head and tells her that's ridiculous. Judy's eyes immediately fill with tears. She thanks her, then asks, just to confirm, whether Telia would stay at the academy with her if she had to repeat a year. Telia turns her face away slightly. She says that might be difficult. Judy asks why. Telia apologizes, steps back, tells her she would do almost anything for her, but she cannot repeat a year. She just can't. Judy protests loudly, pointing out that Telia will find work the moment she graduates and asking if she's really fine with parting ways like this. Telia thinks about the tuition, the years, the cost of every single day she has spent in this building. She tells Judy gently that she cannot throw that money away forever. Then she wraps her arms around her anyway, and tells her she absolutely must graduate and move forward with her life. She's just beginning to drift back into her own thoughts when Cecilia appears. She apologizes for interrupting, asks if Telia concentrated well on today's exam. Telia says she probably performed about as well as her preparation allowed. Cecilia smiles and reaches into her bag. She has something, she says, a small gift for the Academy's ever-diligent runner-up. She sets it on the table. Holy water. Her father sent it, she explains. She used it frequently during her own exam preparation and can personally guarantee its effectiveness. Telia looks at it, looks at her, asks why. Cecilia leans a little closer, says with complete sincerity that she wants Telia to claim first place this time. She wants to see her beat Ilex. She wants to watch him lose. She leans closer still, asks if that explanation is enough. Telia looks back at her and genuinely cannot tell what to make of any of this. The biggest failure of his life, Cecilia says. That's what she wants. She catches Telia's expression and immediately waves it off. There's no need for that look, she adds. This isn't against any rules. Plenty of students are using it. Telia is still studying the bottle when Judy comes bounding over with the energy of someone who has just remembered something urgent, which she has. The rhetoric exam is in the annex. They need to leave early. Right now, actually. Get up. Telia rises. Cecilia asks if she's heading toward the main building. She is. Cecilia mentions her exam hall is there too, and before Telia can respond, she picks up the holy water and slips it directly into Telia's bag. When Telia turns back, Cecilia simply waves her off. Her friend is waiting. She should go. Good luck on the exam. After walking Judy to her exam room, Telia returns to the library for more studying. When she makes her way back toward the annex later, she finds students flooding out of it looking vaguely traumatized, complaining about brutal questions, lamenting their futures, generally behaving like people who have just survived something. She glances toward the door and wonders if the annex exams ran long today. She thinks about Judy, the doubt in her voice earlier. She hopes she studied enough. She stretches her arms, drifts into the garden, and decides to wait there until Judy finishes. Her bag rustles. She reaches inside and pulls out the small bottle. She turns it over in her hands, thinking. Cecilia's words about Elex sit strangely in her memory. That open, almost personal desire to see him fail. Something must have happened between them. Something Telia doesn't know about. Judy's warning surfaces next, quietly but clearly. She'd asked Telia earlier if she was actually planning to drink that, told her to be careful. According to her brother, overusing holy water, or getting a bad batch, can cause strange reactions in the body. When Telia asked if that meant death, Judy clarified that death only came from extremely concentrated doses taken all at once. The real danger was something else entirely. Going into heat, she'd said, like an animal, unable to calm down without sleeping with someone. Telia had laughed, said that was impossible. Judy had told her to be careful anyway, and since Cecilia uses it, it's probably not cheap, which almost makes it worse, somehow. Lost in thought, she catches pieces of a conversation nearby. Two boys talking about holy water with the enthusiasm of recent converts. They didn't understand it at first, one admits, but now that they've tried it, they completely understand. At this rate, the graduation exam will be manageable. His friend agrees and adds the part that lands with weight. Everyone's using it now. Anyone who isn't is losing ground, like running barefoot while everyone else rides horses.
Telia goes still, looks down at the bottle in her hand. She wonders if drinking this would finally let her run comfortably too. She uncaps it, holds it there for a long moment, then turns it over and empties every drop onto the ground. She already knows the answer. Anything received as charity from someone else can never truly belong to her.
She'd rather keep running barefoot until the very last step than become someone else's version of a winner. Riding a horse at another person's command, she caps the empty bottle and sets it aside just as Judy emerges from the annex, spots her, and rushes over with the specific relief of someone who was not entirely sure they were going to survive the last 2 hours. A quick note on where things stand. The first graduation exam at Arkansas Royal Academy covers 8 required general subjects and 4 electives. Failing even a single one means repeating the entire year. No second exam in winter, no exceptions, just a full year of waiting and trying again. The exam period stretches across roughly 1 week. Most fourth years would normally be approaching the end of it with cautious optimism, except that every graduation candidate now faces a rhetoric retake. Because Gregory somehow managed to leak the exam questions, Judy cannot contain herself for even a full second after hearing about the retake. None of this would have happened if not for Gregory, she announces, at a volume that suggests she would like Gregory to hear this personally. Telia tries to calm her down. Nearby, a group of boys receives the news with considerably less distress. They never liked Gregory much anyway. He hung around their circles without contributing anything. If anything, they seem mildly pleased. Later, in the library, Judy is still seething. She regrets not confronting him sooner. She finds it deeply unfair that everyone caught up in the scandal belonged to his inner circle while he walked away without a real consequence. Telia observes that his father almost certainly pulled strings behind closed doors. Predictable, barely worth being surprised about. Then Judy leans closer and lowers her voice, asks if Telia finds any of this suspicious. Telia tells her to go on. Judy mentions the rumor. Count Myers and the Dean, a relationship apparently close enough to explain how someone with Gregory's particular brand of stupidity passed the entrance exams in the first place? Because there is genuinely no other logical explanation. What neither of them notices is the boy sitting directly behind them. He has been listening with barely contained rage, and in the one moment their attention drifts, he slips something into Telia's glass and retreats without a sound. They never look up. They keep talking. Across the library, Cecilia watches him leave. She glances down at her nails and wonders, idly, whether she should switch to a darker shade next time. This bright color might be getting old. Telia tells Judy to stay calm. Once the retake is done, the semester ends. It'll be over. But something flickers across her own expression as she says it. Judy notices, asks what's wrong. Telia stands up slowly, says the water tastes a little off. Something might have gotten into the cup. She's going to rinse it in the bathroom. The boy behind them is already on his feet before she reaches the door. Inside the bathroom, Telia sets the cup down. The dizziness hits without warning. She wonders if she's caught a sudden chill, loosens her tie, thinks vaguely about the infirmary, fever medication, practical solutions, and then stops. Because something is wrong in a way that has nothing to do with fever, there's a restlessness under her skin she can't name, a pull she doesn't understand, and her mind surfaces a thought that makes her go completely still. She doesn't know where that thought came from, and then she does. Judy's warning comes back to her word for word, even a single improper dose. Heat so intense there's no relief without. Panic rises fast and sharp. She doesn't understand how this happened. She poured the bottle out. She was careful. Movement outside the bathroom door. Gregory steps inside. He tells her to just hear him out, promises it could be enjoyable. The fury that moves through her is immediate and total. That he would do this. That he would look at her and decide she was the kind of target worth doing this to. The absolute nerve. She pushes it down, forces herself to think. He's blocking the only door. That exit is gone. Her eyes move quickly around the room and land on the window. She looks at the drop, hesitates for exactly 1 second. Then she jumps. She lands hard, catches her breath, feels the brief, sharp relief of having escaped. It lasts approximately 3 seconds before the next problem arrives. The retake, the exam she cannot miss, the exam she absolutely cannot enter in this condition. She squeezes her eyes shut and tries to think, but the pressure building in her body is making thinking very difficult. She forces herself upright, silently begs for something, anything, anyone. Her eyes open. There is a figure on a nearby bench. She blinks, focuses. It's Ilex. She stares at him. Something she can't quite name moves through her alongside the confusion, and her feet are already carrying her closer before her mind catches up and starts screaming. Not him, anyone else. Literally anyone else on this entire continent. Anyone except that insufferable, worthless Davenport. She runs through her options quickly and efficiently, the way she does everything. Begging a professor for mercy. Too late. Finding Judy, getting a priest, impossible before the exam. The math is brutal and simple, and she hates every part of it. She looks at the boy on the bench. He has plenty of women. Everyone knows this. He wouldn't attach any particular meaning to her. She would be one of many, which is exactly what she needs right now. Someone for whom this means nothing. She presses her lips together, asks if he would like to sleep with her. The shock on his face is immediate. He asks if she even knows who he is. She doesn't answer. He asks again, and standing there in the silence that follows, she becomes suddenly and acutely aware of how insane this looks. She's offering herself to him like this, out of nowhere, outside a building, and whatever his reputation, he is not someone who accepts just anyone. She can see that clearly now. She's miscalculated. She turns away, apologizes, says to forget it. It was nothing. His hand closes around her wrist. He wants to know what's wrong. She tries to brush it off, but he pulls her closer, and his voice is different now, quieter, more direct. She looks unwell, he says. Something is happening. He's not asking to be polite. He asks if she'll go to someone else if he says no, if she'll find another man tonight. She tells him yes. Something shifts in his expression. He looks down briefly, just for a moment, and then back at her. He says he understands, adds, quietly, that he's wanted this for a while anyway. She finds herself in his bathroom, water running warm over her skin, genuinely uncertain how she got from that bench to here. Ilek's broom, Ilek's personal bath, which is a sentence she never expected to form in her life. A quick rewind, the moment she agreed, he brought her directly to his room, announced with complete composure that he does not sleep with anyone who hasn't washed first, steered her toward the bathroom, and left her there alone. She finishes the shower, presses a hand to her head, adjusts the gown left out for her, and tells herself she wants to leave as quickly as possible. She tries the door. It doesn't open. She calls out. His voice answers from the other side, calm, unhurried, asking what's wrong. She tells him the door seems stuck. He tells her she needs to pull, not push, and asks her to let go of whatever she's holding so it can open properly. Nothing happens. He forces it open from the other side, and she is on the floor. He looks away, tells her to come out. He has something to give her. She stays where she is for a moment and studies him carefully. Asks if she looks strange to him right now. He turns his face aside, tells her with great conviction that she does not look strange at all. She gets up, moves closer, catches hold of his sleeve. He glances down at her hand, notes that she's already washed, which means the question now is what exactly they do from here. He reaches up and cups her cheek gently, carefully, like he's made a decision about how this goes. He tells her not to regret this later, reminds her with something that might almost be a smile that she's the one who started everything tonight. He leads her to the bed. Telia asks him to take his shirt off first. She's not going to be the only one exposed here. Elex finds this irritating. He complies anyway. She hesitates when it comes to it, just briefly. One last moment of her mind registering everything that is happening, and then she lets go of the hesitation because there is no other path forward and Telia has already made her choice. She's practical that way. What she isn't prepared for is her own body. Because despite everything, despite the reluctance and the logic and 4 years of actively disliking this person, something feels different. Her mind protests and her body simply doesn't listen, keeps pulling toward him in a way she can't reason with. She tells herself it's the holy water. It has to be the holy water. Because without it, someone like Davenport would never... He kisses her fingers. Telia doesn't understand why. She looks at him, genuinely baffled. And the feeling that moves through her is even more confusing than the action that caused it. She has always hated him. She has always found the mere idea of Ilex Davenport irritating to the point of disgust. She knows this about herself with complete certainty. She looks up and asks him, flat and direct, if he honestly believes she ever once imagined anything like this with someone as repulsive as him. The Davenport heir moves closer. A faint smile crosses his face. He says he always knew they'd end up here eventually. Afterward, Tilia buries her face in the blanket. She lies there for a moment, taking full stock of what she has just done, and concludes that she has lost her mind entirely. She starts searching through the sheets for her scattered clothing. Behind her, Ilex hears the small sounds she's making, asks quietly if she still hurts, if she wants water. She tells him no, then she glances at the clock. Tilia bolts upright so fast the blanket goes with her. The rhetoric retake starts in 10 minutes. 10 minutes. The first-place student stares at her, asks with genuine confusion if she actually wants to go out in that condition. She is already pulling on her gown. The exam starts very soon, she tells him, as though this is a completely normal thing to say from where she is currently sitting. She searches frantically for the rest of her clothing and finds nothing, which is its own special kind of humiliation, until Ilex appears behind her and tells her to hold out her arms. He helps her with the shirt, buttons it with a practiced ease that Tilia notices despite herself. Smooth, efficient, not a moment of fumbling. She wonders, not without some irritation, exactly how much experience is responsible for that. He finishes the buttons and tells her not to leave yet. He has something to give her. Tilia watches, confused, as the Davenport heir moves back toward the bed and adjusts something on the sheets with the quiet discretion of someone who has considered her feelings without being asked to. She looks at what he's indicating. She understands. It was her first time. There it is, confirmed without a word spoken about it. Elex walks to the table and opens a drawer. Tilia steels herself for the conversation she doesn't want to have, for him to claim he didn't know, for some version of responsibility to enter the room and make everything more complicated than it already is. Instead, he holds out a small bottle and tells her to drink it before she goes. He should have given it to her when she arrived, he says. He forgot. She should take it now at least. Tilia looks at the contraceptive in her hand. Something shifts in her expression. Small, quiet, almost invisible. She drinks it quickly, sets the empty bottle down. She thinks, not for the first time tonight, how ridiculous the idea of responsibility was to begin with. As if she chose Davenport for any reason other than pure, desperate convenience. As if any of this was ever going to be something. She asks if she needs to thank him, adds that she'd prefer no one finds out about today and he wouldn't want the association either, she knows that. Tilia checks the time. She genuinely has to leave now. Being seen walking out of the men's dormitory with Ilex would be a disaster she does not have room for. She's halfway through the door when she glances back. He's still standing there. She tells him to get dressed. Davenport has his own exam to take. She shuts the door. He stands there on the other side of it, jaw tight, grinding his teeth. Ilex cannot believe her. He genuinely cannot believe that she would, after everything, just leave like that. The bell rings, papers down. Tilia stretches her arms and looks over her work one last time. It's enough. She's confident it's enough to secure graduation, which is all she needs it to be. Her eyes drift toward the attendance board. One student marked absent. She stares at Davenport's name for a moment and wonders if he simply didn't show up. She hands her paper to the instructor and tells herself not to think about it. The first-place student has skipped exams before out of pure laziness. His absence today probably has an equally infuriating explanation. She's still considering this when Judy crashes into her from behind, arms locked around her, sniffling loudly into her shoulder. She demands to know where Tilia disappeared to. She was searching everywhere. She was worried. Tilia apologizes, says she suddenly felt quite ill, tells her not to worry. Back in the dormitory, Judy is horrified to learn the illness came from drinking water. Tilia confirms this with a steady expression, says she was resting in the infirmary and lost track of time. Judy admits she was a nervous wreck, but relieved, so relieved. She pauses, then adds, more carefully, that she was afraid something worse had happened, because Gregory was lurking near the bathroom when Tilia went in. Tilia goes still. Judy explains that he kept hanging around the entrance, and when he spotted her, he asked whether Tilia had gone inside. The way he asked it, the way he was just standing there, it unsettled her deeply. Tilia's expression settles into something calm and decided. She smiles and tells Judy she'll handle it. If Gregory wants to push this far, she'll make sure he gets expelled in the most disgraceful way imaginable. Judy still looks worried. She points out how pale Tilia is, mentions she already secured a leave pass, and offers to go buy medicine from outside. Tilia asks, gently, if that pass has anything to do with the family gathering tonight. Judy protests immediately. Is a gathering really more important than her sick friend? It is, Tilia tells her. It absolutely is. Today is the day Rainer comes home after 3 years away. Judy has been waiting for this for months. Canceling would only make things harder, and Tilia isn't going to be the reason for that. She should go. Judy hesitates. Tilia tells her not to worry. Just bring back a chocolate on the way. That's enough. The door closes. The room goes quiet. Tilia sits with the ache in her stomach and back and makes a silent promise to herself. Judy will never know what actually happened. If she found out, she would cry. She would apologize for being useless. And Tilia cannot sit through that. Because none of it was Judy's fault, not a single part of it. She grips the bedding and tells herself this means nothing. It's a nightmare she just has to endure a little longer. Her real life, the one she's been working toward, the one she's planned and fought for, that life hasn't started yet. It will. Everything will be fine. She closes her eyes. A flash of memory, unbidden, lying beside Ilex, tears sliding down her face. Him watching her and asking, with genuine uncertainty, whether she cried from pain or whether tears came easily to her in general. Tilia jolts upright, shakes her head hard. Why did that feel so vivid? Why is she remembering useless details? Another fragment surfaces, him telling her not to cry, because he never knows what to do when women cry. She sits there and wonders if he says that to all of them. Probably. It doesn't work on her anyway. It didn't mean anything. Then a different memory, older and much heavier. Small hands gripping the fabric of a dress. A woman's voice, sharp with desperation, demanding to know how a man named Bradley could treat her this way. And then, her mother noticing her standing in the doorway, pulling her close, holding her tight. Never live like this. Her mother's voice, urgent against her hair. Never trust men. Never be fooled by love. Or you'll end up exactly like me. Tears had streamed down her mother's face as she said it. Her father always claimed to love her, she cried. She believed his sweet words, and it destroyed her entire life. Telia steadies herself now, the same way she steadied herself then. She will never be fooled, not by sweet words, not by anything. The door bursts open. Judy is back, far too early, calling for her to wake up and look at something, practically vibrating with the urgency of it. Telia blinks, asks why she came back so soon. Judy waves the question aside entirely. Someone, she announces, sent Telia a gift. Telia examines the box and asks what's inside. Judy has absolutely no idea. The dorm attendant just told her to deliver it. She turns it over in her hands and notices the ribbon is velvet. Telia opens it, already thinking there is no one who would send her something like this. Both girls peer inside. Judy looks confused. Then she leans closer and examines the contents more carefully. Medicine, one for bruises, another an ointment for cuts. The kind of careful, precise preparation that only comes from a high-class pharmacist. She asks Telia if she has any idea who sent them. Telia thinks of exactly one person. She tells Judy she has no idea. Judy shrugs and moves on, turning toward the door and mentioning almost as an afterthought that she brought chocolates on the way back. She pulls out a box and then admits, slightly sheepishly, that they're actually from her mother, not herself. Telia takes the box, asks if these are from the contest. She should thank her later. Judy waves it off as nothing special. The next morning, the classroom has a completely different energy. The retake is over. The boys have collectively remembered how to breathe. One of them jumps onto a table and asks if anyone secured a day pass to go out, radiating the specific joy of someone who has just survived something. His friend looks at him with mild disbelief. How does he loosen up that fast after just one round? The one with glasses settles the matter simply. They live for today. Grades come later. Today they enjoy themselves. Outside, as students scatter and chatter fills the air, Judy slows down and frowns. She tells Telia something feels off. She's probably gone crazy from overstudying, but for the past few days, everywhere she goes, she keeps seeing Ilex. She taps her own face lightly and insists she must be imagining it. Telia says nothing, because Judy is not imagining it. The protagonist has noticed the exact same pattern, and she's arrived at a more precise conclusion. Davenport hasn't been following them. He's been following her. Judy talks herself out of it, guesses she didn't sleep enough, and wonders aloud if she should head back to the dorm and rest. Telia tells her to go ahead. She's stopping by the library. The library, where Ilex is, predictably also headed. He follows at a distance the entire time, never close enough to confront, never far enough to dismiss. He appears, disappears, reappears. Telia selects the book she needs and decides firmly not to think about it. Vacation is coming. Final semester follows immediately after. She has no time for this particular complication. She settles in and starts reading. Then a nearby conversation catches her attention. Gregory, apparently, has finally been caught. She listens more carefully. The girls nearby are buzzing with it. He was the main culprit behind the exam leak. And not just that, he'd been colluding with the dean since the entrance exam itself, since the very beginning. They wonder aloud whether the dean will be replaced over this. Telia thinks of what Judy told her. The rumor, the connection, all of it. It seems it proved true after all. Good news, she decides. Gregory expelled without her having to lift a single finger, but something nags at her. He escaped so easily last time. Why now? What changed? One of the girls lowers her voice and says the exam leak isn't even the most important part. Nearby, Ilex goes still. Telia leans in. They found something in his room, the girls say. She leans just a little further, just to catch the rest of it, and loses her balance entirely. The book slips from her hand. The balcony tilts. She's falling. A hand catches her. Ilex holds her securely, one arm steady around her, and observes in a perfectly calm voice that she bruises easily. Ilex pulls her closer and murmurs into her ear that people can hear them. She's aware. The girls downstairs look around at the noise, find nothing unusual, and return to their conversation. Telia removes his hands from her waist and slips behind a bookshelf, waiting until they move away before turning and pushing him back. He says nothing, just picks up her fallen book and hands it over. She studies his face. Those blue eyes again, unreadable, revealing nothing, the same as always. She's never once been able to tell what goes on behind them. After a moment, she tells him to follow her. In the backyard, Telia turns and asks him directly, "The medicine box, the one delivered to her dorm a week ago? Did he send it? No one else could have, especially not with wound ointment included." She tells him to take it back. She doesn't need it. She has no desire to be entangled with him over this, and she wants them both to pretend nothing happened. She shakes her head, partly at him and partly at herself. She chose Davenport specifically because she thought he'd cause the least amount of trouble. That calculation has not aged well. She tells him to stop following her. It's irritating. Elex looks genuinely caught off guard for a moment, then a smile crosses his face. She seems mistaken, he says. He never followed her. Telia stares at him, asks if a ghost has been trailing her for a week then. Coincidence, he says pleasantly. The lecture building, professor meeting, the library, reading material. He steps closer and points out that the academy doesn't belong to her alone, so why does she act like she has exclusive rights to the premises? The sheer audacity of this response. Telia finds it so childish she almost can't form words around it. She demands to know how old he actually is to be behaving this way. He replies that he is certainly an adult. As he proved, he adds last time. The color that rises in Telia's face is immediate and involuntary. She tells him to lower his voice. Davenport grins. She has no idea what he finds funny about any of this, which somehow makes it worse. She reiterates clearly and firmly, no more coincidences, no involvement of any kind. Her only goal is graduating without complications, and he is rapidly becoming one. He sighs, tells her to go ahead then. No one is stopping her. It was a one-time incident. The medicine was basic courtesy. She shouldn't overthink it. He left marks on her and she got hurt. Sending something for that was only natural. Calling a personal doctor would have been strange. He says it simply, like it's the most reasonable thing in the world. They mean nothing to each other, he finishes. Telia looks at those eyes again, still unreadable, still giving absolutely nothing away. He watches her drift into thought with what might be curiosity. Then she smiles, small, quiet, and oddly satisfied, like someone who has just confirmed something they suspected. She apologizes for the misunderstanding, thanks him, turns to leave, adding over her shoulder that she hopes those coincidences truly don't repeat themselves. She walks away. Ilex stands there alone in the backyard. Back in her room, the protagonist lies on her bed with a piece of chocolate and tells herself, firmly and finally, to stop thinking about it. Basic courtesy, that's all it was. She glances at the chocolate, sets it aside, and stares at the ceiling. They mean nothing to each other. She already knew that. The end of semester arrives at last, and with it, 1 month of freedom. Judy does not take the goodbye well. She makes Telia promise to stay in touch, insists she must visit the Wells estate, and then cries anyway. Telia tells her to sit properly in the carriage so she doesn't get hurt, which is perhaps the most Telia response possible to someone weeping in front of her. Judy wishes her a pleasant vacation through her tears. Home, as always, receives Telia with shouting. Baron Bradley Ambrose, head of the family, owner of exactly one functioning brain cell which he uses exclusively for schemes, is already holding her report card when she walks through the door. He demands to know if this is what she calls results. Anything below first place is worthless, he reminds her, for what must be the 100th time. He storms out, declaring she needs the top ranking to prove she can produce excellent children, and calls her a useless brat on his way out. Telia looks at her report card. Second place, she mutters that Davenport is a monster because he skipped the retake that day, got pulled in for an additional exam with the professor, faced penalties on top of everything, and still claimed first place. She saw him in that room with her own eyes. In that situation, under those conditions, she genuinely doesn't know if she could have matched him. She's still staring at the card when her father reappears and raises his hand. She asks calmly if that would be wise. He stops, asks what she means. She mentions she promised to have dinner at Lady Wells' house tomorrow. Arriving with marks on her face would be somewhat problematic. The Baron's entire expression shifts. Fury replaced immediately by panic. He rushes to his desk, demanding to know why she's only telling him this now. Papers scatter. He announces he'll summon a priest and orders her to her room. Because here's what's running through the Baron's mind. Someone mentioned a gold vein hidden inside an abandoned mine owned by the Wells family. If he can sweet-talk Count Wells into selling that mine, discover the gold, the Count will have no choice but to deal. He's been carefully cultivating a good impression for weeks. And this girl is standing here being a nuisance. He slams his desk. Telia walks out of the room, grinding her teeth quietly. She already knows what comes after graduation. He'll discipline her and sell her to whoever bids highest. She also knows she just lied about the Wells dinner and will need to actually contact Judy now. She's still working through this problem when she hits the staircase. Every time you come back, this house gets loud. George Ambrose, eldest son of the family and living proof that the entrance exam exists for a reason, leans against the wall looking deeply unbothered. He jokes that she shouldn't tell him she's been sleeping with professors up at that fancy academy. Women, in George's expert opinion, should stay home, focus on their appearance, and marry well. He questions why their father bothered sending her at all, filling her empty head with useless ideas. Telia looks at him, asks mildly why she would sleep with a professor. Then she continues up the stairs and informs him she's not an idiot like someone who couldn't even pass the entrance exam. His fist clenches. He asks if it's been too long since she last got hit. She stops on the stairs, tells him he can go ahead, but she's visiting the Wells family tomorrow. She meets his glare and adds that if he keeps performing this particular act of modesty, he might actually land the rich noble girl their father is hoping for.
Something shatters behind her, a window presumably. She keeps walking. She closes her bedroom door and sits on the floor beside the bed. The silence is worse than the noise, somehow. Her mother's name was Evelyn Palmer, third daughter of the wealthy Palmer Count family, a Royal Academy graduate, brilliant, capable, someone who wanted to exist as herself rather than as someone's wife or someone's mother. She broke her engagement to a border marquis for that reason, chose Baron Ambrose instead, chose poverty with dignity. The dignity lasted until the wedding. Its true nature emerged gradually, then all at once, cruelty wrapped in the mundane, until Evelyn became nothing more than a decoration in this house.
Isolated, slowly disappearing. She used to tell Telia that the moment a woman trusts a man, she dies. We'll both die and disappear forever, she said. Don't be fooled. Don't end up like me. Telia was there the day her mother fell down the stairs. The official ruling was accidental. What Telia knows is that her mother's mind had already broken long before her body did. She curls up on the floor now and looks at her mother's photograph on the wall. She lied about the Wells dinner. She'll contact Judy, say she fell on the stairs. She looks at the injury on her hand and covers it carefully. Everything will be all right. She keeps her eyes on the photograph and says it again, quieter this time, like a promise she's making to both of them. Wells Castle is everything the Ambrose household is not: warm, quiet, and free of anything being thrown at walls. Judy meets her at the entrance before she's even properly inside, overjoyed and slightly breathless. She mentions the invitation was last minute and she'd expected to meet next week, but her mother said today worked just as well. Telia assures her it's fine, she was actually about to reach out anyway. Judy looks delighted, says they're truly in sync. Then she asks how things were at home. If anything happened. Nothing happened, Telia tells her. Everything is exactly the same as always. Judy studies her face with the particular concern of someone who knows exactly what same as always means in that household, and says nothing because the Countess appears at that moment and fills the doorway with genuine warmth. She welcomes Telia, insists she doesn't need to be so formal, and notes that she grows more elegant every time they meet. She pulls Judy into a brief embrace and remarks that she truly doesn't know what would become of her daughter without Telia at school. Then she looks at Telia more carefully and notices she's lost weight. She insists she must eat well tonight. She apologizes that the rest of the family can't join them. Night order duties ran late. A voice calls out from the stairs. A young man looks down at Telia with visible surprise and says it's been years. Telia stares. Rainer? At the dining table, she asks how he's been, whether Aunt Aroa treated him well. He confirms it did, notes that even as a neighboring country, the atmosphere feels entirely different, which made the whole experience genuinely interesting. His mother interjects with the energy of someone who has been waiting to say this. She wanted him to enter the Knight Academy like his brother, not run off abroad. Does he have any idea how worried his father was? Rainer corrects her patiently. He didn't run away. He went to learn about trade. He starts to mention how open Aunt Aroa is, and his mother cuts him off before he can elaborate on exactly what that means. Telia asks how the language was. She'd heard the grammar system resembles their own. Rainer blinks at the question, then explains that it seems manageable at first, but grows considerably harder the deeper you go. Speaking naturally, without thinking about it, proves genuinely difficult. He slides a wine glass toward her and observes that she seems quite interested in the place. He asks if she'd like to visit sometime, mentioning he plans to live separately from his family starting next year. Telia reads the room. The Countess's expression, the careful politeness, the shape of everything unspoken at this table. The Wells family is kind to her because she is Judy's friend. That kindness has clear and understood limits. If she were to marry into this family, bringing the Ambrose household, the Baron, the debt, and the disaster, the complications would be immediate and considerable. They both know this without saying it. She tells Rainer she'll visit with Judy after graduation. He looks uncertain, says the two of them have been together a long time after all. Judy immediately wraps both arms around Telia and asks her brother if he has any complaints about that. He admits he doesn't. Telia, he says, is the only one who stayed beside Judy when everyone else was caught up in their own affairs. After the meal, the Countess asks Telia if she could spare a little time before heading home. There's something she'd like to discuss. They walk through the garden. Telia mentions that Judy went with Linus to check on the carriage. She asks what the Countess wanted to talk about. The lady faces her and admits she's not entirely sure this is her place to raise, but it concerns the Baron's business dealings. Telia goes still. The Countess explains carefully. The Baron approached them recently, seeking rights to develop an abandoned mine. The problem is that the Wells family knows that location well. There is no gold there. There never was. Nothing worth digging remains. And yet the Baron is convinced they're hiding something, and insists on purchasing it regardless. They turned him away for now, but it seems certain brokers have already found him. The kind who collect investments by claiming undeveloped gold mines exist, and then disappear with the money entirely. The Countess could simply sell him the worthless mine. She could, but she'd rather not watch it happen. She thinks perhaps Telia could speak with her father, that he might listen to her. She grasps Telia's hands gently and apologizes for pulling her into adult matters. Telia smiles, thanks her, promises to look into it properly and speak with him. She grinds her heel against the floor the entire walk home. If he's going to lack intelligence, she thinks, he could at least lack ambition to match, or possess some minimal instinct for self-preservation. She genuinely cannot understand how one person manages to worsen their circumstances so consistently, so thoroughly, with such remarkable dedication to making every situation worse. She pushes the front door open harder than necessary. Her father descends the stairs and asks pleasantly how the visit went. Telia looks at him directly. She tells him there's something they need to discuss. The Baron extinguishes his cigarette and asks if she's referring to business matters. Suspects she heard something during the visit. Telia asks if he plans to invest in a gold mine. His eyes sharpen. He wonders aloud if the rumor has already spread that far, then immediately reframes it, deciding the Count must be trying to push them out so he can monopolize the mine himself. Classic misdirection from a threatened man. Telia tells him the Count offered to sell the abandoned mine at a cheap price, claims it has no profitability, that developing it would only result in losses. Her father bursts out laughing, calls the Count a fool who doesn't understand risk, declares that thanks to this generous fool, he'll secure the gold mine instead. Telia watches him and feels the specific exhaustion of someone who has had this exact conversation before, in different forms, her entire life. She mentions carefully that she's been hearing about scammers lately, the kind who manipulate investors and vanish with the money. Since they don't exactly have funds to spare at home, perhaps he should reconsider. The cigarette tray comes flying in her direction. He asks if she still has plans with Judy tomorrow. She confirms that she does. He tells her to go to her room. She closes the door behind her and stands on the stairs for a moment. There's no point, she realizes. No last chance to extend. No version of this where she warns him and he listens. The Baron is walking into a pit of his own construction, with both feet, and the only real question is how many people he drags down with him. She looks around her room, at her books, at the walls of this house that have never once felt like home. She needs to leave, quickly, before the pit gets deep enough to reach her too. Her eyes land on a paper sitting among her things, a job posting for a consular position in the Foreign Service. Royal Academy graduates and expected graduates receive extra points on the application. She picks it up. Rainer's voice surfaces in her memory. Antaroa is a land of freedom and art. Anyone can pursue anything there, anywhere her father cannot follow. She closes her eyes, tells herself, one more time, that this is not her real life. It hasn't started yet. Her real life is waiting somewhere else, in a country where no one knows the Ambrose name, where she can finally just be. She opens her eyes. No time to waste. She's getting out of here no matter what. The next morning, she visits the nearest bookstore, which turns out to be enormous and almost entirely unhelpful. Quality books are apparently in short supply when there are endless rows of everything else to sort through. She considers buying a new Antaroan conversation guide while she's already out, then remembers her scholarship funds and sets it back on the shelf. The Foreign Service Consular examination runs every November. First round, written diplomacy. Second round, an interview conducted in the target country itself. That interview accounts for 40% of the final score, which means excelling on the written portion is essentially meaningless if she can't hold a conversation. She looks at the books in front of her. A conversation guide is only useful if there's someone to actually practice with. She's still staring at the shelf and contemplating this problem when the door bursts open. A boy rushes in, clearly out of breath, clearly agitated, clearly running from something. He spots her, moves closer, and quietly tells her to stay silent. Telia stares at Ilex Davenport. Moments later, several men pour through the same door, shouting that he couldn't have gone far. They need to find him and escort him to the royal castle immediately. They're running out of time. She processes this, looks at Davenport, looks at the men searching the shelves. He's playing hide and seek. The heir to a ducal house with an escort sent from the royal castle is hiding behind a bookshelf. She steps out to flag the searchers down. He yanks her back and covers her mouth. He offers 10 gold coins. She shakes her head. He revises. 10 gold to hide him. She still doesn't want his money. He catches her hand before she can move and offers something else instead. Just her silence, her promise not to reveal his location, and in exchange, he won't tell anyone about their previous encounter. Telia goes still. She studies his expression and asks if he's told anyone so far. He hasn't, he says. And if he's lying, he swears he'll enter a monastery and live celibate for the rest of his life. She considers this, then agrees, on her own conditions. He never speaks of it, past or future, and if he breaks his word, he swears to live as a eunuch, forever. His eyes go wide, then a slow smirk crosses his face. He accepts, claims he'll keep the promise if only out of sheer fear of divine punishment. The searchers are getting closer. Telia makes a rapid calculation. If Davenport gets caught right now, he'll almost certainly decide the agreement is void. She has exactly no interest in that outcome. She pulls him closer. He looks genuinely shocked, eyes wide, voice low, demanding to know what she's doing. She meets his gaze and reminds him, very calmly, that he asked her to hide him. Telia positions him behind her and holds a large book open in front of them both. When the searchers pass, one of them looks genuinely embarrassed, reporting to his captain that the boy is simply not here. They move on. She watches them go and quietly tells Davenport to keep his head down a moment longer. She turns to check on him and finds him staring at nothing with the vacant expression of someone whose brain has temporarily left the building. She taps him. Once, twice, several more times than should be necessary for a person of his alleged intelligence. He comes back to himself. She peers around the shelf, confirms the men have moved elsewhere, and pushes him away. Reminds him she just saved him and he now owes her the agreement they made. He looks at the book in her hand, asks if she's developed an interest in Ontaroa. Telia spins around, asks how he even recognized it. He mentions he lived there briefly as a child. His mother is originally from Ontaroa. Telia files this away alongside a half-remembered rumor about the Duchess of Davenport having foreign royal connections somewhere, then decides it has nothing to do with her and lets it go. Alex examines the book more closely, observes that she's working with fairly advanced conversation materials, then notes with the tone of someone being genuinely helpful rather than condescending, that books like this have real limitations for actual speaking ability. Telia knows she's been thinking the same thing for days. What she needs is a fluent speaker, not another textbook. She knows this, she just hasn't had a solution until approximately right now, standing in a bookstore next to a problem she keeps acquiring. She steels herself, addresses him in Ontaro, states, clearly and correctly, that she has no obligation to answer his questions. His eyes go wide. She demands to know why he's looking at her like that. Was her pronunciation really that poor? He laughs. She demands to know what's funny. He's still laughing when they exit the store, which does nothing for her mood. He apologizes. The sentence caught him off guard, he says. Her pronunciation was accurate, her grammar was correct. She simply lacks familiarity with how people actually speak day to day, the casual patterns that don't come from textbooks. She asks if he's mocking her. He asks if she needs help, clarifies immediately that it wouldn't be free, he'd need something in return. She looks at him, he brings up the celibacy clause, specifically the part where he told exactly one person about their encounter, his attendant, without whom no one would have delivered the medicine. He would like that one instance forgiven. He asks, with the energy of a man making a very reasonable request, how he's supposed to live as a eunuch forever over a single necessary disclosure. Telia sighs, keeps walking, tells him she'll let it go if he stops bothering her. He looks surprised, asks what she means. She points out that he has been following her, everywhere, constantly. Is this another coincidence? Davenport falls into step beside her and explains that he currently has nowhere to go. He's been kicked out of his house. She suggests he visit whichever woman he's currently involved with, since they're surely waiting. He admits, with unexpected honesty, that not all the women he associates with actually care about him. Telia absorbs this information and chooses to ignore it entirely. He asks where they're headed. Guesses it might be the new bookstore near Old Town Bridge. She hesitates 1 second too long. He reasons it out. She left the previous store empty-handed, which means either they didn't have what she needed or her needs have changed. He brings up the conversation practice, offers himself, points out that she can use him however she wants, no strings, because he has no particular interest in her, just as she has none in him. That mutual indifference, he explains, is exactly what makes following her different from pursuing other girls. She doesn't pester him. Telia stares at the back of his head as he walks ahead of her. She tells him to go his own way. He's already heading toward the bookstore. She follows against every instinct she possesses, because he's right and she hates that he's right and she genuinely wants to learn Ontaran properly. Inside, Davenport moves through the shelves with purpose and starts pulling volumes. He explains that her grammar is already flawless, so standard conversation books are essentially useless. Newly published novels are better. They capture how people actually speak. Telia looks at the growing stack and tells him she only needs one book. Then a voice nearby stops her cold. She knows that voice. Her brother George, somewhere in the store, talking to another boy and asking questions about his sister. Telia watches her brother disappear into the hidden area below and wonders what exactly he does in a place like this. Elex moves closer and murmurs that a shady social club operates beneath the bookstore, a gathering spot for unsavory types, which explains why anyone would open such a large establishment in the old district. He advises her never to come here alone. Desperate people, he notes, have no regard for time of day. He takes her arm and suggests they leave immediately. She studies him, wonders how he knows all of this with such casual familiarity. A mildly disturbing thought crosses her mind, that the kind of person who ignores day and night might actually be standing right next to her. Then someone below says her name. Telia claps her hand over Ilex's mouth before he can react, tells him quietly to forget whatever he heard. Then she grabs his hand and pulls him toward the exit, because she lied about the Wells visit, and if anyone connects her to this place, she is finished. Below, George is holding court. He's explaining to his companions that his sister attends the Royal Academy on scholarship. though personally, he believes she cheated on every exam. One of the boys questions how that would even work and mentions the recent scandal, the one involving Gregory getting expelled for cheating. A third voice corrects them both. Cheating wasn't the real reason. They found blasphemous books in his room. Up above, Telia goes still. She thinks of the book Ilix was holding earlier in the library, the one he reacted to when the girls mentioned what was found in Gregory's room. The boys downstairs continue, unbothered. The Myers family is apparently facing complete ruin, bribing the academy dean, harboring heretical texts, the whole disaster laid bare. One of them wonders why a family so historically close to the temple would ever risk blasphemy charges. Another quickly notes that Gregory was always useful for obtaining holy water, which seems to answer that question well enough. Then George pivots entirely and asks if his sister is attractive. His companion jokes about trading sisters if she isn't. Both of them laugh. Telia stands there, jaw tight, acutely aware that Ilex is hearing every single word of this. She tries to dismiss it. Misery and shame are illusions, they mean nothing to each other, none of this matters. But the thoughts don't quite stick the way she needs them to. She surfaces from all of this to find Davenport at the counter purchasing every book he selected. She rushes over and demands to know who told him to buy that many. She tells him flatly that if he wants to play the prince on a white horse, he should find a different girl for the role. He replies that there's no white horse, and he has no interest in being anyone's prince, and then turns to ask pleasantly who said any of this was free. He leads her to an ice cream parlor. She sits down across from him and questions whether he bought her books specifically to make her eat ice cream with him. He takes a bite and mentions, somewhat unexpectedly, that he used to come here often with someone he was seeing. After they parted, he could never bring himself to come back alone. She suggests he could simply order alone. He tells her that's impossible in a place like this. She can't understand because she's a girl. He would rather die. She looks at him, tells him to go ahead then. He pauses, asks if she just told him to die. She takes a bite of ice cream instead of answering, and then stops, surprised by the flavor. Takes another, quietly revises her understanding of why expensive things cost what they do. Elex finishes his cup. She looks up and asks if he's done already. He announces he'll get another and asks her preference. Strawberry, she tells him. At the counter, the shopkeeper moves to come to them, but Davenport waves him off. He'll order properly. 1 strawberry, 1 vanilla, toppings on the strawberry. The shopkeeper brightens and offers to add toppings to the vanilla at no charge, explaining that having the shop closed for a few hours in exchange for several months of rent is already more than generous. Then the door bursts open. The attendant from earlier staggers in, out of breath, announcing with the energy of a man who has been running for an unreasonable amount of time that they found him. He demands Elex come home immediately. Elex turns back to the shopkeeper and calmly instructs him to skip the vanilla toppings and keep the portions minimal. The shopkeeper looks distressed. The attendant approaches and calls his name at full volume. Elex acknowledges he heard, promises to leave after finishing 1 ice cream, and asks everyone not to cause a scene. The attendant stares at him. The young master, to his knowledge, doesn't even like sweets. Elex replies that today simply feels like a day for eating sweets until his head hurts. Inside the parlor, Telia watches through the window and waits, spoon in hand, wondering when he's going to come back. She doesn't examine that thought too closely. Elsewhere, Gregory is on his knees. He's shouting at his father that this is completely unfair, that he would never commit blasphemy, that someone must have planted the damaged painting in his room, that his innocence will be proven the moment they find the real culprit. He's still going when his father turns and strikes him across the face. Whether the charges are true or false no longer matters, the elder Myers says flatly. The dean betrayed them to cover his own corruption, expelled Gregory personally, and reported him to the temple. The damage is done. If his son had even a shred of care for family honor, he would surrender quietly. He walks out, calls it his final advice. Gregory shouts after him, insists it wasn't him, questions why he would destroy his own future. Then he goes quiet. The only person who comes to mind is Telia. He grinds his teeth. She must have noticed his use of holy water and decided to retaliate over one stupid prank. His mouth curls into something that isn't quite a smile, cold and certain. Does she really think he'll go down alone? Telia walks home in a considerably better mood than she left in. She has books. She had free ice cream. The ice cream was genuinely excellent. She thinks, briefly, that she probably should have said thank you, and also acknowledges in the most private corner of her thoughts that she feels much better today than she has in weeks. She doesn't examine why. She opens her bedroom door and finds George sitting on her bed. She asks what he's doing in her room. Boredom, he says, and then he found something quite interesting. Her eyes drop to the floor. Papers scattered everywhere. The Enterone Foreign Service consular position application stares up at her. George flicks the paper and questions whether she genuinely believes she's intelligent enough for a position like that. Asks when she'll come to her senses. Men, he informs her with great authority, despise women who chase careers. Then he steps closer.
threatens to show their father evidence of her ingratitude and her plans to flee the country. He chuckles, taps her with the paper, and offers to let the whole thing slide, in exchange for one small favor. His friend Brad from the Reynolds Count family would like to meet her. She should agree. She pushes his hand away, asks why she would do that. He explains patiently that becoming a count's daughter-in-law is a considerably better outcome than some foreign consular job. Surely this aligns with her ambitions? She confirms that he is absolutely correct. She asks why else he thinks she applied for the position. Then she asks if he's delusional. He demands she repeat herself. She looks at the application in his hand, sighs, and asks if he's simply bored. She calls it flimsy school paperwork. He shouts and points at the conversation books under her arm as evidence. She presses a hand to her head and asks if he's somehow unaware that a second foreign language is required for graduation. Then, before he can regroup, she mentions she might just speak with their father, tell him about these little fantasies of introducing her to random men, because if their father finds out his son involved her with someone before graduation, the introduction falls apart and everything George has been building with his friend collapses along with it. She takes the application back, tells him she'll handle this quietly and expects no rumors.
Thanks him for the offer, walks away. Behind her, George stands in her room holding nothing, trying to figure out what just happened. He eventually mutters that Brad is genuinely a good person, that she wouldn't regret meeting him. The door is already closed. Several days later, in a private room inside a secret social club, a young man sits alone while a waitress sets down tea. This is Brad, son of the Reynolds Count, and he is currently reconsidering every decision that led him here. He never actually expected George to follow through and offer up his own sister. He curses himself, quietly, for being enough of an idiot to agree to meet someone connected to George Ambrose in the first place. He pours something into a teacup. Telia, he thinks, is different from women who can handle rough treatment, which is, he tells himself, precisely the point. A knock at the door, he rises, invites them in. He bows, says he's honored to meet her, that he's heard much about her. Then he lifts his gaze and freezes. She's standing in the doorway in an elegant brown gown and a sun hat, and she looks absolutely nothing like what George described. Once they settle, Brad cannot help himself. He tells her she's far more beautiful than her brother described, that he was genuinely shocked when she walked in. Telia smiles at him and thinks that she was also shocked, because he's considerably more of an idiot than she heard, and that's saying something. Then she glances at the tea. He asks if she likes Earl Grey, says he brought a particularly good one, they should drink first and talk after. Very civilized, very normal. What he's actually thinking as he pours is that he's hit the jackpot. A woman like this, today, already taken care of in advance, because he mixed the holy water into the tea beforehand. Concentrated dose should work almost immediately. He hands her the cup and thinks it's almost a shame to only have her for one night, even if not as a wife, at least as a mistress. He wants to keep her. Telia lifts the cup. The scent is lovely, actually. She takes a sip. Brad watches, waits, any moment now. He feels a sharp pain shoot through his body. Telia sets her cup down calmly and tells him she knew it. Then she picks up the teapot and pours the rest directly over his head. She tells him men are all the same. One thing on their minds, nothing else filling the space. She stands, looks down at him dripping onto the floor, and asks if he really thought something this cheap would work on her. She walks out. Getting home without her father finding out is the priority now. She pulls her hat low and moves quickly through the club's exit. But the crowd outside makes her immediately regret every choice that led her here. Couples everywhere. The kind of place that makes a girl from a barren family feel extremely out of place. She's turning in the wrong direction for the third time when someone grabs her from behind. She spins around. Ilex, he puts a finger to his lips. She leans close and whispers, "Does he come to places like this too?" He tells her absolutely not. He was looking for her. Before she can process that, he's already pulling her toward the exit, saying they need to get out first and he'll explain on the way. She digs in and tells him to wait. Why should she trust him and follow him? He clearly knows this place well. What if he's taking her to some back room? He tells her that's not what's happening. She asks, voice sharp and low, whether it bothers him that the girl he slept with one time is out here acting recklessly. He says her name. Not a question, not an answer, just her name, with enough urgency that she stops. Gregory escaped. She goes still. He was supposed to stand trial, Ilex continues. He ran, and the boy she just met with today spread rumors that she'd been here, which means Gregory has already figured out her location. They need to leave before he finds her, because that boy has decided she's the reason his life fell apart. He's looking for the easiest target to blame. Tilia stares at him, asks how he knows all of this.
He tells her he's been tracking Gregory's movements, just in case. She stops walking entirely, asks him quietly, why? He doesn't have to do any of this. He's done it over and over. The medicine, the following, the intervention with Brad, and now this. Why does he keep doing all of this for her? He turns toward her, says her name again, differently this time, like he's about to answer.
Telia's expression darkens. Gregory is here. He's already running toward her, a blade in his hand. And then Elex is between them before she can move, one clean strike to the throat, and the knife hits the ground. Gregory staggers back, looks at Elex with something between fury and disbelief, asks Telia if she really had the nerve to pull something like this. Elex looks at him steadily and asks whether blasphemy wasn't enough. Gregory's eyes go wide, trembling, frantic, and he asks if Elex was behind that too. Davenport tells him, with complete calm, that he'll make sure Gregory never comes near Telia again. He'll start with his hand and his tongue and hand what's left to the Holy Knights. He asks if that doesn't sound like fun. Gregory's teeth grind together. He looks at Elex and sees it, the obsession, clear as daylight. Another man gone over Telia. His gaze shifts to her, crouched on the floor, trembling, and something ugly moves through him. She only knows how to use people. She told him she'd rather die than touch him. And because of that moment, because of her face saying those words, he ended up here. He sits down on the floor and says it simply. Someone like her should just die. Elex asks him to repeat himself. Gregory screams that he won't go down alone. His hand goes to his coat. He pulls out a bottle of holy water, uncaps it, and hurls it toward Telia. Glass shatters across the ground. Elex shouts her name. The shattered glass, the smoke rising from the floor, and suddenly Telia is somewhere else entirely. Small hands gripping her father's leg, her mother on the ground, her own voice, desperate and small, begging him to stop. She might die, please, stop, don't kill her. And the tears streaming down her face as nobody listened. She surfaces back into the present, back to the corner of this room, and finds herself telling Elex in a very small voice that she's scared. He looks at her, and then she starts losing the edges of things. The room blurs. The sounds stretch. Elex is already moving, shouting her name, telling her to get away from the glass, and she manages to shift just before the smoke begins rising from where the bottle shattered. He pulls off his tie immediately, covers her mouth with it, tells her not to breathe. Not too much. Cover it properly. His eyes go to Gregory, already crumpling to the floor, and he pieces it together fast, specially concentrated holy water, thrown to force someone to inhale it and die. In the end, the boy fell to his own poison. Annoying, Davenport thinks, to the very end. He takes Telia's hand, tells her they're getting out first. She follows, unable to stop herself from looking back at Gregory going down. Outside, Elex tells her a carriage is coming. She should get on and go, he'll be fine. Then she looks at him properly. He's burning up. She stares at him and asks, did he inhale the holy water too? Is that what's happening to him right now? He deflects immediately, asking why she's focused on him instead of herself. He tells her he trained to become a holy knight once, built resistance to holy water during that time. This amount is manageable for him. He reaches into his pocket and produces a small bottle. A potion, precautionary, he says. She should drink it too. They both drink. He throws the empty bottle to the ground. She's still watching him when his attendant arrives with the carriage, breathless, asking if he's all right. Davenport tells Telia to get in. He'll take the next one. She asks when it's coming. He tells her not to worry. 20 minutes at most. She takes his hand. She tells him to get in with her. If he's going to collapse, it should be inside the carriage, not on the street. He knows how dangerous it is to stay out here after inhaling holy water, and this place doesn't become safe just because he's a man. He tells her he can hold out. He's confident. She tells him, with significant feeling, that she cannot believe he's being like this right now. He steadies her, hands on her shoulders, voice low, and says it's enough. She needs to go, because right now she shouldn't be helping him. Right now she should be running away from him. She looks at him, not understanding. He lets go. She gets in the carriage, it starts moving, and she stares at the road ahead, trying to make sense of what he just said, running away from him, and wonders what exactly she should be afraid of. Because that man back there, something clicks. She tells the driver to turn around. He's sitting against the wall when the carriage comes back. He looks up in genuine confusion. Telia leans out and extends her hand. She tells him to get in. Not for his sake, she says. For hers. The carriage moves forward and Telia looks down at her hand. She tells him to stop staring at her like that. She simply didn't want to leave someone who saved her sitting against a wall on the roadside. That's all this is. Elex hesitates. Reminds her he told her to leave him behind. His fist clenches tight against his knee. He's still processing what Gregory actually did. The concentration of that dose. The deliberate aim of it. Even with years of built resistance, the effect hit him this hard. He cannot begin to imagine what would have happened if Telia had taken it directly. The rage that moves through him is quiet and thorough, and he finds himself genuinely hoping Gregory doesn't die too quickly or too easily. Telia watches him and can't read a single thing on his face. He tells her she shouldn't have come back. He'd finally managed it. gotten her away from Gregory, away from the situation, away from himself. She reaches over and presses her hand to his forehead, asks if he's all right, tells him to stay still for a moment. The carriage lurches violently. Davenport stumbles and finds himself on his knees in front of her. The holy water is not helping. Images surface without his permission. Her and kissing her slowly from her toes upward, and the expression she might make, and he is dragging himself back from that thought when her voice cuts through, asking if he can't stand, if he's injured somewhere. His hands are trembling when he tells her he's fine. She doesn't look convinced. He insists, and then, before he can stop himself, adds that if he weren't fine, what would she do anyway? Sleep with him? He pulls himself together internally with considerable force. He remembers the fear on her face in that room, the way she looked sitting alone in the corner, telling him she was scared, and something in him refuses, absolutely refuses to become one more thing that frightens her. She came all this way to save him. He will not repay that by losing control. He tells her he can't accept her help. He was already struggling even when he was with her before, and that was without any medicine involved at all. How could she possibly endure him in this condition? She should go home. She catches his hand. She tells him this carriage is not going home. It's going to his place. He says her name sharply, confused. Telia takes his hand and guides it slowly to her cheek, holds it there, and asks him, after being doused from a distance with concentrated holy water, does he genuinely think she walked away from that completely unaffected? The carriage stops outside the villa. Elex pulls her inside before the door is fully open. A maid calls after him, asking which room to prepare for the lady. He tells her without turning around that it's unnecessary. No one comes to the second floor until he calls. Telia follows him up the stairs and wonders quietly whether lying about the holy water was the right thing to do. She decides it was. Without that lie, he would have tried to endure everything alone until the very end. She already knows this about him, somehow without being able to explain how. Inside the room, he turns and asks why she's standing so far away, asks if she's scared. Her face flushes. She denies it immediately. She tells herself she only came because she didn't want to owe him anything. That's the reason, the only reason, nothing else. He starts walking toward her, then stops abruptly. She calls out in confusion. Davenport picks up a lantern from the table and holds it out to her, voice low and urgent, telling her to hit him with it if he starts acting like a madman. She stares at him. He asks if she understands and adds, with something almost desperate underneath the calm, that she can run away at any point at all. He means it. Telia stands there holding the lantern. She thinks quietly that if she had truly drunk the holy water, if that were the real reason she came here, the real reason she feels no particular urge to flee, she could blame all of this on that. She takes the first step forward. He starts moving too quickly, and Telia tells him she can't breathe. He stops, apologizes, says he was rough, that jealousy got the better of him, promises to treat her better. Then he looks at her directly and asks her to be his alone. Telia stares at him, asks what he just said. He starts to repeat himself, and she shouts that she heard him the first time. He begins to say something that sounds dangerously like a proposal, and she claps her hand over his mouth before he can finish it, tells him to stop spouting nonsense and just get on with it. He agrees to do whatever she wants. Afterward, Telia lies on the bed and stares at the ceiling with the quiet certainty that she should have used that lantern when she had the chance. Beside her, Davenport breathes with the deep satisfaction of a man who has absolutely no problems. She listens to this for approximately 10 seconds before the anger arrives fully formed. He made a complete mess of her and somehow looks perfectly fine. She sits up and reaches for her shoes, growing considerably more irritated with every passing moment. The door opens, 2 maids enter, ask if she's awake, and offer to help her dress. Telia looks at them with the specific embarrassment of someone who is not expecting an audience. She tells them she can manage alone, just leave the clothes and go. One maid exchanges a glance with the other and says there's no need to refuse. They're accustomed to serving ladies like her. Telia goes still. Ladies like her. She takes the shirt from their hands and tells them, clearly and without raising her voice, that she attends the same academy as Ilex and will graduate in the same year. She is not a prostitute. She is not a mistress. They should not treat her as though she is either. The conversation is over. They should leave. The maids look flustered and start to explain that's not what they meant. Ilex walks in. He asks if something is wrong, notes that she mentioned feeling unwell, and questions why she's leaving already. He tells her treatment has been arranged and food is prepared in the dining room. She should eat before going. Telia smiles at him. It's not a warm smile. She asks if this is the full package then. Priest for treatment, meal included, all standard procedure for women he brings to the annex. She asks if this is simply how he operates. He looks genuinely taken aback, glances at the maids, then tells her, with barely concealed irritation, that yes, this is the standard, so she should eat and leave. She tells him she doesn't need his consideration and asks him to move. He catches her hand. She asks if he's finished. He explains, with the patience of someone choosing his words carefully, that the head maid got excited about having a guest after a long while. If Telia doesn't come down, the food goes to waste. That's all. She asks what that has to do with her. He leans closer and lowers his voice, reminds her quietly that she should also take a contraceptive before leaving. Given what happened last night, Telia tells him he is the worst human being she has ever encountered. He turns to the doctor waiting in the hall and instructs him to prepare the treatment. She settles into the carriage afterward. Treatment received, a box of chocolates sitting in her lap because Davenport handed them to her on the way out and asked if she liked them, which is the most infuriating way anyone has ever given her a gift. She stares out the window and decides she should never have helped him. He does exactly what he wants with people and then arranges breakfast about it. The audacity is genuinely breathtaking. The carriage slows, stops in front of her house. A knock at the door, it opens. Her father stands there, looking at the unfamiliar carriage with an expression that shifts, the moment he registers what he's seeing, into something that makes Telia's stomach drop. He smiles, asks if she's just now coming home. He drags her inside by the hair. The box of chocolates hits the floor and scatters, and the Baron doesn't even glance at it. He's too busy shouting, demanding to know where she thinks she's been, throwing her body around like she weighs nothing, calling her filthy. He says she doesn't even deserve the food she eats. He yanks her hair and asks what excuse she plans to give a husband on the wedding night, what she'll tell the man who purchases her. Disgusting trash, she says. Telia looks at his face and tells herself not to think. The longer she thinks, the more unbearable it gets, and the more it hurts. She recognizes his face for what it is, a nightmare. And this is not her real life. It hasn't started yet. She smiles. The Baron sees the smile and raises his hand, declaring she needs to die today before she comes to her senses. A servant rushes in. He calls for the Baron to come look at something. A delivery has arrived. From the house of Davenport. The Baron turns, steps outside, stares at a bucket overflowing with flowers, all of them from the Davenport residence. He looks genuinely bewildered. Why would a ducal house send anything to their family? The servant retrieves the note and reads it aloud. From the second son of the Duke, for Miss Telia. The Baron looks at his daughter and smirks, claims there's no way, if she'd been involved with someone like that, she would have said something. Before Telia can move, George grabs her hand. He asks with the urgency of a man whose plans have gone sideways whether it's true. Did the Davenport heir actually send her gifts? He wants to know if she slept with him, because he sent her to meet Brad, and now Brad isn't answering any of his messages and he needs someone to explain what happened. She smiles and tells him she'll keep her mouth shut no matter how hard he presses. There's a limit to everything. Then she asks sweetly if he's aware that his friend Brad tried to use holy water on her. He immediately starts making excuses, questioning what kind of girl even uses language like that. She tells him to keep pretending, asks if she should instead explain everything to their father, the part where his eldest son was essentially trying to sell her off for personal profit. She asks how he'd feel about that particular conversation. He shouts that he did everything for her sake. She tells him to stay quiet. Walking toward the stairs, she adds over her shoulder that he shouldn't interfere in her affairs, unless he wants to lose every coin he spends on alcohol. He mutters after her, half to himself, that she should be grateful. Being the second son's mistress isn't nothing. Even if he won't inherit a title, at least she'd be taken care of. She stops and looks at him. He reads her expression and laughs, asks if she was hoping to become the lady of the house, tells her to get a grip. Women like her don't become fiancés or romantic partners to men like that. They get toyed with a few times, and that's the end of it. Still, he eyes the flowers with something almost like reluctant admiration. They do treat her remarkably well for just that. Telia tells him, pleasantly, that if she ever becomes a mistress, she'll make sure he's the first to go. He stares at her. She explains that she'll beg for him to be killed first. Then she goes upstairs. She collapses onto her bed. She lies there staring at the ceiling and acknowledges to herself what she already knows, that she's just someone to be toyed with a few times. She knows this. She's known it. She doesn't think much of any of them either. A piece of chocolate hits the floor. She sits up. No one can hurt her, she tells herself. No one can bring her to her knees, because a person only gets hurt when they allow themselves to be beaten, and being beaten is proof of nothing but stupidity. She presses her hands flat against the mattress and asks herself quietly if this is really the time to feel sorry for herself. It isn't. She whispers that it's time to study. She has to pass this exam. She has to. Across town, at the Davenport family dining table, a young man sits waiting with the patience of someone who has done this many times before. This is Gilbert, eldest son of the house, future heir, and currently the only person in the room willing to say what everyone is thinking. He asks Ilex, who has just arrived, whether arriving late to a family event feels as good as it apparently looks. He demands an apology. Ilex looks around the table, sees no viable alternative. He bows and apologizes for being late to his mother and father. Ilex settles into his seat. Gilbert thanks the Davenport family tradition of Sunday dining with the tone of someone who has weaponized gratitude, noting that without it, he'd rarely see his younger brother's face at all. Then, without missing a beat, he mentions the rumors circulating among the servants. A young lady, apparently. Someone the second son has been treating as something rather precious, sending flowers without pause. Ilex offers nothing.
His father picks up where Gilbert left off, asks, with the measured patience of a man choosing his battles, whether Elex truly replaced all the maids simply because they spoke too casually to her, whether dismissing even the personally appointed head maid without explanation was really the appropriate response. Elex says nothing. He recognizes the oversight. The annex has become, through his own doing, considerably less restful than intended. His father continues, enjoying himself is fine. Moderation is the word he's looking for. The Clayton Marquis family is expressing significant displeasure. The engagement has been postponed until after graduation, nothing more. If they went to the trouble of sending him to that meeting, the least he can do is avoid disgracing everyone in the meantime. Gilbert adds that Cecilia deserves better treatment, that she turned down heirs from prominent families, for him specifically, that this probably constitutes genuine love, in case Elex was wondering. Elex's jaw tightens. He sits at this table and wonders how many more times he'll have to endure this. The warmth, the familiarity, the carefully maintained performance of a happy childhood that no one actually wanted. He knows they've already investigated the Ambrose family thoroughly. He knows exactly what conclusion they've reached. The only thing surfacing in his memory right now is sharing lunch with Tilia and the specific expression on her face when she was angry at him. He looks around the table, feeling completely isolated, surrounded by people he has quietly decided are all disgusting.
Across the city, Tilia is having no luck with her books. She searches through shelf after shelf, comes up empty, and catches herself watching boys outside enjoying their vacation through the window. And her very first thought, before she can stop it, is that Elex must have run away from home again. She startles at her own concern, reminds herself firmly that this particular boy has caused her nothing but trouble. Just today, her father summoned her to meet some investor, using the Davenport flowers as leverage, implying she maintains a close relationship with the young master, since the flowers keep arriving without pause. The rumor has apparently taken on a life of its own and is gaining credibility by the day. She leaves the library and thinks, not for the first time, that she should find a way to stop her father's behavior, though she does acknowledge, quietly, reluctantly, that she hasn't been trapped at home since that day, that this vacation has been, against all reasonable expectation, almost peaceful for once. She turns a corner and stops. The ice cream parlor. She stands outside it and remembers him hovering around her constantly during those days, appearing everywhere, claiming coincidence, following her with that infuriating composure. And yet lately he doesn't even cross her path by accident. Just flowers, arriving without explanation, without appearance, without any attempt to claim anything. She wonders if this is how wealthy men handle mistresses, paying without claiming the body, sending things from a distance, never quite showing up. She wonders if he finds the whole game amusing. The shopkeeper emerges and asks if she's alone. She starts to deny it, stumbles slightly over the wording, and he's already inviting her in before she finishes. Grand opening event. Everything's on the house. She checks the sign. It's real. She steps inside and remembers, without meaning to, Alex telling her he used to come here frequently with a former girlfriend, that after they parted, he could never bring himself to come back alone, that he genuinely wanted to eat here again. If he actually thought of her as a mistress, someone convenient, someone temporary, she doubts he would have sat across from her looking that confused, that unguarded. She doesn't know what he thinks of her. She doesn't want to know. Strange is the word she's settled on, and she intends to leave it exactly there. But standing inside this shop, she can't quite stop the question from surfacing anyway. Why does he keep doing all of this for her? Autumn arrives, and with it, the second semester. The campus is quieter than usual, notably missing everyone who failed the first examination, which turns out to do wonders for the general atmosphere. The survivors walk around, radiating the specific relief of people who have cheated death and know it, already buzzing with plans for after graduation. One girl mentions her ambitions to become the crown princess's head lady-in-waiting. Her friend points out that such a position requires a letter of recommendation. She reveals that Miss Smith has already agreed to write one, which draws the kind of envious silence that means everyone understands the matter is essentially settled. Their conversation drifts as they notice Telia nearby. Someone remarks that having a top graduate serve the royal family would certainly elevate the academy's reputation. Unlike, the implication follows, certain individuals who only generate scandal. Whispers move through the group about how Telia can shamelessly pursue a man on the verge of engagement, about the disgrace of sharing an alma mater with someone like her. Telia hears every word. She releases a quiet breath. Cecilia appears. She calls out to Telia and asks what the matter is. She's been staring at the group for a while. Does she have something to say? Telia offers a small smile, says it's nothing, just that it's been a while since she witnessed scenes like this one. The brown-haired girl immediately takes offense, demanding to know what that's supposed to mean and why she's directing it at Cecilia instead of apologizing.
The red-haired girl tells her to stop. She asks Telia how the break was. Getting by as usual, Telia says, and returns the question. Cecilia shares that she's been rather occupied, engagement preparations specifically. Things between her and Ilex are now in full swing, she says, and the ceremony might even take place before graduation given how insistent the Davenport family has been. She felt compelled to inform Telia personally, regardless of who else knows. Telia congratulates her, asks if that's really the case. Cecilia asks if that's truly all she has to say. Telia looks puzzled, asks what else there should be. She thinks Elex and Cecilia will make a lovely couple, so surely that suffices as congratulations. Cecilia closes her eyes briefly, says it hardly matters, since Elex has never limited himself to one or two women anyway. She advises Telia to focus on her studies, especially given the rumors about her father facing difficulties.
Someone should probably look into that. Telia thanks her warmly, says that hearing such genuine concern from Cecilia is truly motivating. She reciprocates by wishing the wedding preparations proceed smoothly, that being, after all, what matters most right now. Cecilia sweeps past her with a short laugh, remarking that Telia should examine her own standing before displaying such pride. Telia watches the boys nearby discussing their futures and hears, underneath their voices, the echo of her father's, his command to seduce the young lord, secure the investment, followed by his mocking certainty that she gave up her body only to be thrown aside. She pushes it down. None of that matters. None of it has ever been what matters. What matters is the thing she's been holding on to for years, quietly, without telling anyone. The goal that hasn't moved no matter how much everything else has. She stops in front of the Academy notification board and lets herself imagine it, leaving all of this behind. Starting from the beginning, somewhere no one knows the Ambrose name. She is not her mother. She will not end up like her mother. The only thing she trusts now is her own future. The real life waiting somewhere far from here. Something warm trickles from her nose. She looks down, blood on the ground. She's bending to wipe it away when a hand settles gently on top of her head and tells her to stay still. Elex kneels beside her and asks if she's all right. She looks at him without speaking. He suggests she keep her head lowered. Rushing blood can be dangerous. She pushes his hand away and tells him she's fine. He looks at her with mild confusion before his attention shifts to the book she'd been reviewing. He mentions that the topic she's studying won't appear on the second exam. She asks why. He hesitates. Panic arrives immediately. Telia starts flipping through pages, frantically rechecking the scope, wondering how she could have miscalculated something this fundamental. And then he reaches over and takes the book directly out of her hands. She demands it back. He tells her to stop the bleeding first. He flips through her notes while she seethes, and then tells her the rest of her preparation is solid. She's organized a considerable amount. It's impressive, actually. She asks if he feels no anxiety at all. They have to prove 4 years of learning through a single debate exam. Everything on one day, decided by lottery. She thinks, not for the first time, that at least one good thing came from last semester's disaster. The dean was replaced. The new one is known for integrity, which means no one, including Davenport, would risk secret tutoring this year. For once, the evaluation might actually be fair. She looks at him and thinks that someone with his ability wouldn't need tutoring anyway. It's the most irritating thing about him. He comments that the class valedictorian in waiting treats her summary notes like they're more precious than life itself. He seems genuinely pleased to see she's organized the latest case studies and done them well. She shouts at him. He heads for the door, bidding her farewell. She calls after him immediately, demanding to know what he just said. He mentions, already leaving, that he folded the important pages for her reference. She looks at the folded pages and feels a surge of irritation that she cannot quite direct anywhere useful. She wishes he would just get engaged to Cecilia and leave her alone. The second graduation exam is a single subject. A comprehensive debate, 4 years of learning distilled into one discussion of current social issues, with the topic, opponent, and assigned position all decided by drawing lots on the day itself. Perfect preparation is structurally impossible. The entire final semester exists to prepare for something that cannot be fully prepared for. Telia's solution is to conduct mock debates on every possible topic, which means she needs a group. Normally, the second-ranked student would have no trouble finding one. She sits alone in the classroom while everyone else clusters together and talks. She glances towards Cecilia, wonders. Cecilia notices the look and offers a faint sigh. Telia thinks with quiet desperation that Ilex is already handled. Could they not at least let her graduate in peace? The door bursts open. Judy, slightly breathless, announces she has been searching everywhere. They need to discuss their study group. She looks at Telia and grows immediately suspicious, asking her not to say she already found another group. They agreed to stay together. She also mentions she brought a few others who want to study alongside someone smart. Telia looks up to find 3 boys, all from knightly families. One of them, Mackenzie, drops to one knee and pleads. Another deferral means expulsion, he says. He is not joking. He is now older than the teaching assistant. Judy leans over and whispers that they might want to drop him. His repeated failures could drag them all down. He shouts that he can hear them, Another boy mentions he found one more person on the way. Judy brightens immediately. The first boy asks if they're really excluding him. Judy turns and insists it was a joke. He notes that her face looked extremely serious for a joke. Telia looks at all of them and decides a group of 5 will simply have to manage somehow. The 5th person walks through the door. Both girls go completely still. He looks around, asks if the group leader is Ambrose, and makes his way toward Telia's seat. He mentions he's been looking for a study group himself. Elex pulls out a chair and sits down. And that's it for today, guys. Okay, but can we talk about what just happened? Because Elex joining her study group, the man who has never needed anything from anyone, actively seeking her out, sitting down at her table like it's the most natural thing in the world, that is not a coincidence. That has never been a coincidence. That man has been orbiting Telia since chapter 1, and he knows exactly what he's doing. And Telia, she is so determined to feel nothing. The chocolate on the floor, though we mean nothing to each other, the I chose him for convenience. Girl, you turned the carriage around. You pressed his hand to your cheek. You lied about the holy water to protect him. That is not convenience, that's something else entirely, and she is not ready to admit it. What I love about this story is that neither of them is soft about it. Telia has iron walls built from real pain. Her mother, her father, everything she's survived. And Elex has this possessive, quietly obsessive energy that he keeps trying to disguise as indifference. The tension between those two things is going to explode eventually, and I genuinely cannot wait. Where is this going? My honest prediction: the debate exam is going to force them together in a way neither of them can explain away as coincidence. And Cecilia's engagement announcement is going to make things very, very complicated, very fast. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what happens next, because we are absolutely continuing this one. This story is called The Butterfly That Swallowed the Fog, and today we covered up to chapter 25. Kisses, and see you next time!